Welcome to the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. This show is brought to you by Oakley Trucking, headquartered in North Little Rock, Arkansas. The purpose of this podcast is to communicate with Oakley owner-operators and their families by giving them up-to-date information concerning Oakley trucking and the trucking industry, from business advice to safety updates to success stories. Also to give an insight to outside truck drivers that might be interested in joining the Oakley family. Hi, this is Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking, and I'm your host for this podcast. This is episode 25. On today's episode, our focus is going to be on retention and driver turnover. And I got Jason Webb and Scotty Crisco. They're load coordinators on the in-dump division. I got them sitting in here with me, and we're going to visit with them a little bit and talk about this driver turnover and what we do as a company to keep ours low, and also about retention, of course. So going to cover that in here in just a little bit, but first, let's hear from Vickie Chastain on this week's Need to Know segment.
There are many things that can cause distractions while driving on the road: talking, using your phone, adjusting your radio, eating, or drinking. These can all distract you from the essential task of driving. Distracted driving, that's this week's Need to Know segment. You cannot drive safely unless driving has your full attention. Any non-driving activity you engage in while behind the wheel is a potential distraction and increases your risk of having an accident. So give your full attention to the way you drive and the way other vehicles around you are driving. Don't be a statistic of distracted driving. I'm Vickie Chastain, and that's this week's Need to Know segment.
Okay, before we dive into this, I want to address our owner-operators real quick, because I had a couple of emails on praising our owner-operators, and I wanted to throw this out there to you guys at the very beginning here to let you know that I got an email. Well, I should say not me, but one of the dispatchers got an email from Aramet and Marietta, a customer in Ohio. And it says, I'll just read it here to you. It says, I had an employee and several contractors comment on the Oakley trucks and how good they looked. Always clean and looking very professional. These people see a lot of trucks and never comment on anything, so this is quite a compliment. So you guys are looking good, and that is from Aramet in Marietta, Ohio. Sorry about that. So that's paying off. And then we got one, actually, from evidently our owner-operators did a job up in, where did I say this was?
I think it was Ashtabula, Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio, at Kinder Morgan up in Ohio, and we were hauling some ballast stone out of there, and these guys said they wanted to thank our drivers and said they're the most courteous drivers I'd ever had the pleasure of dealing with. I spent 45 years in construction and now security, and have dealt with thousands of drivers. Every Oakley driver who has come in has had a smile on their face and are pleasant to address with this COVID issues we now have. Pretty good stuff right there, guys. So yeah, you should be commended at those two places. And of course, we get a lot of other ones too, but we try to definitely compliment you when we do get it. So appreciate all our listeners. We're getting good feedback. Please, help us. Like I say it every time. I mean, this is for our owner operators and their families and employees too. But we want to spread this word in this podcast, because we're using it as a platform to communicate with you guys, whether it be safety, recruiting, dispatch, or just trucking in general. So we want to use this and want y'all to help spread the word and how to listen to it. So appreciate that. Got Jason Webb, Scotty Crisco up in here with me. How you guys doing?
Man, doing good.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, I was going to say, y'all did this one time before.
Yes, sir.
Not our first rodeo.
So you're catching up with Dulaney. Yeah. Nick, he come in here and he wanted to be the official co-host.
Yeah,
because he'd been here like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, he kind of gave us a dirty look when we were walking out of the office a while ago.
He'll be starting his own podcast for a long time.
Yeah, he'll probably try to. Well, hey, I wanted to talk retention and driver turnover for quite a while now, and really get into it get your perspective as operations and dealing with the owner operators every day, but also my perspective as a recruiter too, and been doing this for a long time, and kind of I did a little bit of research on what turnover has been in the past, and where it really excels is in these over the road trucking companies. I'm not talking about less than load carriers. I'm talking about over the road trucking companies, combination of company drivers and owner operators. And all companies, the average turnover rate is 90-something%. And I just shake my head just like you did, Webb. I'm like, man, that is tough.
That's insane.
It is. And at Oakley, ours is 26%. And you think, how is that possible? Such a big difference. And there's, a lot of answers, I think, to that question that I want to get into. But, when you think about truck drivers quitting, we always think about why. What's the reasons why they want to quit a job that they're working at? Well, and I did some research. You had some that I want to read y'all a couple of these, because you got to remember I got this off the internet.
It's got to be true then.
Yeah, I don't know how true it is, but I got it off the internet. So, and it said the primary causes of driver turnover. One was human nature, which it described how people want to be in contact with other people. And, a lot of times a driver can get out there and not be in contact with a lot of people. And, I guess I never thought it would be something like that, but that's what it says here in this. And it says the motivation behind this effort has been to increase the amount of home time that drivers would realize in a given week or month. So it basically talks about home time, them having contact with their family and people and stuff. But also, it said economic reasons, which makes sense. Money.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, money is a big reason of driver turnover. Here's one that we've always said is a big contributor that this article said was health. Health's a big reason for turnover. We all know that. I have guys ask me what's your biggest reasons why guys quit over there at Oakley, and I tell them it's the truck breakdowns, and the health is about the top two. That's a lot of it. And then 4, expectations versus realities. And we'll get into that a little bit too, because I think that's got to do with recruiting, communicating with dispatch too. But here's the stat that I found that you really need to know is this says, for those carriers that participated in the surveys, short-term turnover accounted for 85% of the total turnover. And that is 180 days or less. So somebody working 180 days or less accounts for 85% of a company's turnover. So what's that tell you? I mean, they either didn't know what they were getting into, didn't like it, didn't last long.
Not a lot of communication up front.
Something. Yeah, a lot of stuff right there. So kind of give you that to think about, and then we'll get in here. So let's get y'all's input on some of this. I just wanted to get that information out of the way, because I did a little research on there and thought that was neat. But when you take an over-the-road company and it's a 90-something, this says 94% I found of over-the-road companies, and ours is 26% right now. Why in the world, what do you guys think? Well, I guess first of all, why do you think turnover at another company, not Oakley, is so high?
Well, I'll kind of answer that question coming through the back door maybe, but what I was going to say, one thing that I think Oakley has done a great job of, and probably through trial and error over the years, is our recruiting process is very rigorous. We have a lot of hoops that guys have to jump through and qualifications they have to meet before we even let them come aboard. So I think
And you don't think other companies probably do that?
Well,
they probably hire whatever.
Yeah, I can't imagine theirs are as strenuous as ours. 2 years over the road experience, hazmat, TWIC card.
Yeah.
I think those are some. And then what kind of truck do you own? We're not hiring on guys with poor equipment.
Right.
I think that would be some big factors in why other trucking companies turnover is much higher than ours.
It's just crazy. You think that amount of turnover. I mean, I would hate to work at that trucking company. I can tell you that. And having to see that many people go through, I mean, orientation and then quitting constantly. I mean, it's just a revolving door.
Yeah. Well, and just from on our side, just how much we rely on our guys, and having to, guys that have experience, and we use those guys to help train up other guys, and to, have the thought of having to go through that cycle every 3 months or 4 months, whatever that is man, that gets
so talk about that training.
Yeah. So, we try, and it doesn't always work out like we want it to, for sure. But we try to, when a guy comes out of orientation, have him run with a guy for, it might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, everybody's different.
You mean shadow a guy?
Yeah. Have somebody there with him when he's unloading and loading, and show him.
Two loads going to the same place.
Yeah. Guys just running gear. They load at the same place. They go unload at the same place, and it's a juggling act sometimes, because stuff's always changing. But, we've found that really helps get a guy off to a good start, and so when you hear, guys leaving companies after less than 180 days, well, something's missing there.
Yeah.
There's some communication missing there. They were sold a bill of goods that wasn't what it turned out to be, or, I don't know what. But
I would think you'd have to try to have a 94% turnover.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't say that.
Right.
We've had years and years ago, but man, that is just high. And, it makes you think, boy, I sure don't want to be part of that statistic. I'm glad we're bringing that down.
Well, I think getting off to a good start definitely would. If I was in a position or in a trucking company that had a 94% turnover, I think that'd be one of the first things I looked at is, we're not getting off on the right foot somehow.
Well, and that's a good point, Webb. They need to, somebody changing job needs to ask what's your turnover rate.
Yeah.
And we get that some as a recruiter. We'll have some guys ask what your turnover rate is, because that'll tell a lot right there.
Absolutely. I agree. And also, I just want to say that I think that we do a great job of, it's not just because I work here, but I really think that we do an awesome job of hiring the cream of the crop, so to say. We're hiring drivers that have made a big financial leap to come here in a lot of situations. And, on the flip side of that, we've made a financial investment in getting the driver to come here ourselves. It's not cheap to bring on a new driver. That costs money.
It sure does.
So, whether it be advertising or equipment or there's all different points you could look at on how expensive it is to bring on a driver. But I think we do a great job. I think the guys that come over here have either made a decision early in their life or late in their life. I can't tell you how many drivers I've had or dispatched that said, man, I just wish I'd have come over here 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that whenever somebody does pull the trigger to come over here, most of the time they're looking for a home. They're looking for, hey, this is where I want to retire from, So I think that plays a big factor.
Well, and I think that you're exactly right. And I think recruiting has a lot to do with that. I know a lot of people, recruiters kind of have a bad name, but at a lot of companies, but these guys try real hard to make sure we get the guy that would fit here. Because there ain't nothing more frustrating than us giving you a new owner operator, and then you ask, who hired this guy? You know, or what happened? What's going on with this guy? Get a call, you know, or something in the first day or the first week and first month, and you know he didn't make it, and that's not that doesn't help anybody.
That doesn't help
you know,
anybody.
that doesn't help the recruiter. That doesn't help Oakley. It doesn't help dispatch. I mean, that just wastes a bunch of time.
Doesn't help that guy.
Doesn't help that guy. And then, so we harp on. I do these expectations and what we cover with these guys, because we want them committed before they even get here. We want them committed to this company, you know, and that they're going to stay here. This is not just I'm going to come over and try it.
Right.
I want to come over and, like you said, I want to come over and retire here.
You bet.
And that's what the recruiters are looking for. I promise you guys. I know not every one of them works out, because we don't find out everything that, you know, we need to all the time, because all we can do is ask questions and on paper and their history and that kind of stuff and make a good decision. But a lot of times it's a gut decision too on how they present themselves and how they take care of themselves. And so anyway, I'm really proud of the recruiters to try to find that, narrow it down to, hey, this one will fit. And then, but that still leaves, you know, you guys got to work with it then.
That's true. There is good communication between recruiting and dispatch here at Oakley. I would say on average, at least 3 to 5 times a week, Jason or I or my other coworkers will get emails with questions from recruiting on maybe where, if, you know, we've got a driver we're talking to that lives here, you know, say Darlington, South Carolina, or Kearney, New Jersey, or somewhere. How often can we get him home? So that just shows me that recruiting is doing a good job of covering their bases on making sure we're not telling guys over the phone something that we can't do. You know, there's got to be nothing more frustrating in the trucking industry than to be a driver and be told something and then make a decision to change your life to go work for a company. And then you get there and find out that it's something different than you were told. So I think we do a good job of trying to cover our bases and being upfront with drivers and what we can do and what we can't do. And we do that with customers too. I hear Jason and myself tell customers every day, we don't want to tell you we can do something that we can't. However, if you are thinking about coming on with Oakley, I think the recruiters deserve that from you too. If you're a driver out, you know, I think you got to be upfront with us, you know.
And you know, that doesn't happen all the time. We had one this week. We had to give you an example this week. So, you know, we cover expectations and we ask the owner operator coming in what kind of miles you want, what kind of money you want to make that time. Well, we introduced him to you guys to dispatch, and he had different numbers on his mind than what the recruiter told him. So the dispatcher calls the recruiter and says, something ain't jiving here. So what do? The recruiter gets the guy and sits down and where'd we mess up? Let's cover this. You telling me this. And we even send them, I don't know if y'all know this, we even go to the extent of we send them a printout of the expectations. We send the recruit that before they ever get here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what we discussed. So that didn't jive with what he told the dispatcher. So he's telling us one thing, telling dispatch another. So we had to get that resolved, which we did. It was okay. I think just a little bit misunderstanding, but that's exactly part of it that can happen right there.
Well, you sure want to do that on the front end. I'll tell you one thing that's really helped us in this, I think, is so we've got a recruiting program, you know, where guys that we have leased on here with us now turn in a recruiting card on a guy. And then, you know, if they stay here a certain amount of time, we pay them some money. Well, you know, we can talk to the guys all day on the phone, or recruiting can, but we really don't know everything until they walk in the door. Well, you know, our owner operators that are, you know, referring these guys, you know, they know what the job is.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the times I think we've had a lot of success in that program just because, you know, our guys out there, you know, can talk to a guy and kind of size him up, for lack of a better word, you know. And, you know, I don't think these guys just send in recruiting cards on guys that they know aren't going to pan out.
Yeah, they're our best recruiters.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
So, I mean, that's been a key, I think. You know, we talk about how are we where we're at. You know, we do a lot of good things here in recruiting and dispatch, but, those guys are out recruiting for us.
And that's
are
the
a big
owner
part of
operator that recruited him. That's also a lot of times the guy that trains him.
Yeah.
We do try to make that happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which helps a lot.
You bet.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from Ken or Randolph or Dustin or anybody else, but I mean, the fact of the matter is you guys just aren't going to be as influential as a driver that already works here.
That's right.
And has gotten out there and gotten his hands dirty and put his trailer in the air or hooked up hoses or whatever it takes. So, yeah, Jason makes a great point. I mean, that. And, I think the owner operators are proud of what they do. I used to dispatch a guy named Ricky Webster, and he told me one time, it kind of stuck with me. He said, man, when I pull into a truck stop and I back in this shiny trailer and, he goes, I feel proud. He goes, I swear truck drivers just look at us a little bit different, dry bulk haulers, rather than, and I'm not taking anything away from a man that pulls a van trailer, but I think our owner operators are proud of what they do. It's such a unique job. It's a unique niche of the industry, and I think that contributes to our low turnover also.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Well, then why in the world do we have quitters?
I don't know why anybody quits.
I don't either.
No, there's all kinds of reasons, and we've heard, every reason under the sun, and sometimes what we hear may be right and may be something else.
Well, when you've got 875 owner operators, okay, you're going to have quitters every week.
You bet.
There's just the odds, it's just going to happen
Mm-hmm.
because you're either going to have safety reasons, accident, termination, something like that. You're going to have guys like we talked about, truck problems, health problems is big. It's something every week. And then you're just going to have, it just ain't for everybody.
Right.
You're going to have some guys that's just not going to work. Here lately, we've lost 2 or 3 guys to be home every night. Mm-hmm. They go to a job where they be home every night. So, even though we do have a low turnover rate, we still have more quitters than I like.
You bet.
Than anybody likes. But, I feel like we're sure working in the right direction to prevent them. But what's some of the reasons? Y'all hear any more reasons than that? I mean,
well,
what does dispatch get? Do we get the truth?
I think you get some of the truth, and at the end of the day, these are, grown men that have a business to run, and they've got to make the decision that's best for them. And we're never going to, and I've told this to guys over the years, I'm not going to fault you for wanting to, if you think you can better yourself and your family, that's,
right.
Fair enough. But I would say that, we keep up with these stats and have for years. Jeremy's kept up with them since the day I walked in and before. The number one way we attract owner operators is through other drivers, Oakley drivers, the recruiting card program. Well, usually the number 2 or 3, depending on the month, is rehires. Guys that were here before and went after greener pastures.
Yeah.
And come to find out, it wasn't quite as green as what they thought it was going to be.
Well, how many times have we seen that?
Yeah. And it makes you feel good.
Y'all got any examples off the top of your head?
Man, golly.
Grady Durham.
Oh, Grady, that's right.
He was going to go pull a flatbed, some job down there around the house or something. And I think it was 8 or 9 days later, he called in wanting to come back. Another Marvel Purrier. I can think, yeah, there's
several. Yeah, I've thought of a couple too. And I tell you that I've thought of a couple that would be gone not very long. Typically, they want to come back.
Yeah. And
I try to get them to realize, of course we don't ever want them to leave if we know what's going on. But you get some of them that leave and then want to come back, and they've lost so much money.
Yeah.
Especially if they've been here for a few years and they've got that nickel bonus built up to 8, 9, 10 cents a loaded mile, that now they got to come back and they got to start over.
Yeah.
And that they don't think about that, but it's a big decision if somebody wants to leave here. And we try real hard. and this is something I wanted to talk about. We try real hard to talk them out of it, right? The only way we can talk them out of it is how?
Get them in here.
If we know about it.
If we know about it, yeah.
The blindsided are the worst ones. You know,
yeah.
you kind of get caught with your pants down. You don't feel like there's a whole lot you can do about it. And I will say this, and you know, I know Jason felt the same way, but when I was dispatching trucks, and I can tell you, I mean, I work with the dispatchers every day. It bothers, it kind of stings when a truck leaves, you know, or at least, you know, we kind of take it personal because we've developed such a relationship with these guys. We talk to them one-on-one dispatch. Sometimes we talk to them on the weekends at night whenever we get to know about their lives, know about their interests, you know. And I mean, you have such a huge responsibility. You've been working hard and providing, trying to give the guy good service, making sure he's getting his money and his home time. And then when he leaves, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, it used to bother me. I'd think about it on the way driving home, you know, when a driver would leave, especially if it was something I thought I could have done different. But yeah, we do sit down and talk to them, and if we know about it.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. That's something that we've been preaching from day one is if something's wrong, you better tell somebody, because we're not a bunch of mind readers that can sniff it out. I mean, it's communication is a key.
You bet.
To retention. It really is. But if we don't know, man, I mean, how many times does that happen?
Well, and I've had some instances with guys where, you know, they have communicated, hey, you know, and I'm sure they don't like making the call either. You know, hey, I'm thinking about going to do this other deal. Yeah. You know, I can be home every night. And I've had a couple instances where guys have told me what they're going to go do or what the big plan is. And, you know, sometimes it helps to bounce it off somebody, because I've had a couple of times where I've told guys, that sounds a little too good to be true.
Right.
You know, and it turned out that's exactly the case, you know. So I would encourage anybody, if, you know, before you go, you know, you do it when you go buy a car or go buy a house, or, you know, you do a little research. I would strongly encourage you, you know, and I know you get calls every single day. You know, any good owner operator is going to be highly sought after. You know, if you're getting, you know, calls about some dedicated work and it just sounds a little too good to be true, it probably is. Well, so just do your homework.
I tell you what I've seen over the years, owner operators fall into is they fall into a trap of me, myself, I type deal, where I'm just worried about me. I'm not worried about Oakley. I'm worried about me. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Because if you go down that path all the time, it's your time's limited here at Oakley, because you got to be a team player if you're going to be here. And then the scary thing about, you know, being at a place you don't like to be, or you think they're against you or something like that, you got to be careful, because you're going to run into another guy that feels the same way. Misery loves company.
Yeah,
next thing you know, you're down in this ditch and everybody's against you and it's all negative and Oakley's out to get me. And how far from the truth that could be. I mean, you try to tell them that, and it's just they don't get it sometimes. But sometimes they have to have a wake-up moment, and this is where we tell them you've got to call somebody. So when things start happening and you don't get home when you're supposed to get home, or you got a paycheck that wasn't right, or you feel like, you know, you help dispatch out where they're not helping you out, or something's building. And, you know, when those little things happen, you know, he didn't pay me a demurrage he was supposed to pay me, and I'm not saying nothing about it, you know. And those things start building up on a person, and if they don't release it some way, then you up and they quit. And how many times have they quit and then they tell us a list of stuff?
Yeah,
and we're like, where did that come from?
Right.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Well, I can promise you, I'm going to say something if my paycheck's wrong.
Yeah.
So I would highly encourage any drivers out there listening, don't hold back. I mean, if something's wrong with your paycheck, that's our job to get it right. And we don't always get it right. So, you know, call me, call Jason, call your dispatcher first. But let's get your money right.
Yeah. My point is they hold it up inside.
Sure.
They, you know, tell their spouse, or another driver, instead of, if they'll just pick that phone up, or better than that, they come in here face to face. It makes a world of difference. They get it off their chest. And a lot of times we got stuff to get off our chest. Because you can also do the same thing with dispatch. How many times have we told dispatch, look, if you got a problem with a guy, what do we tell him? Get him in here.
Get him in.
Absolutely.
Let's communicate and fix this problem, because the last thing we want is the guy to leave, right?
Yeah. Well, and here's the deal, doing all that over the phone gets you nowhere. Yeah. And then you're going to get him in anyway. So just, we've tried to talk to our dispatch about, cut that out. If a guy's got a problem, just work him in. And it's not a confrontational deal, had guys say, well, I'm getting called in on the carpet. It's just not, that's just not how we operate.
Yeah.
A lot of times, a lot of these, things that crop up are simple things. A lot of times, sometimes a guy just needs to come in and talk. I know that sounds kind of corny, but it's the truth, and it does a world of good for a guy who's dispatching you every day. He may not have laid eyes on you in a while, and it does a lot of good to come in and your dispatcher just hear what's on your mind, and like Jeremy said earlier, there might be something that we want to talk to you about, and it's not a confrontational deal. It's kind of like sometimes you go into church and, the preacher tells you something you might not want to hear, but it might be something you need to hear, so.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Talking right at me.
Yeah.
Looking at me.
Yeah.
I know it, man. Well, good stuff. We're talking with Jason and Scotty about driver turnover and retention here at Oakley and in the trucking industry altogether, which has a high turnover rate. Over the road trucking companies average, up in the 90% range, and Oakley's at 26%. And I think just what you guys are saying is one reason we're there. I mean, one of many. I think we're touching a lot of stuff, because I honestly, of course, I've never worked at another trucking company, but I don't know that many of them go to the extent we do. Open door policy. Talk about that, Scotty.
As far as the open door policy goes, I mean, our whole office is an open door policy. I mean, I think it's really cool to see the new hires come in their first day, or when they get to come meet their dispatcher, and they get to see just really how our office is set up. I mean, there ain't no secrets in there. It's wide open, no cubicles. I'm sitting across from a dispatcher, and he's sitting across from another one, and I can holler down at Jason. And I mean, it's just a big team atmosphere. A little bickering, and I know we touched on all that on the last podcast we were on as far as dispatch procedure goes, but
well, there's no glass, thing you got to look through and slide your name under. There's no badge you got to wear. There's no bulletproof door that you can't get in. I mean, it's a wide open. You come in there, you can talk to any of us. You can talk to the boss. You can talk to recruiting. You can talk to dispatch. And we've always been like that.
And we want that.
We want that. That helps. And I just wish, probably, if I could tell our owner operators one thing, is go that extra step and talk to your dispatcher away from the phone. Get him away from the phone. Get him out there outside on the tailgate of the pickup. Get him in that office, in that room, wherever you feel comfortable, and talk to him about what's on your mind. Because once a guy comes in and says, I'm quitting, it's too late.
Yeah.
But, we can't talk him out of it then. Right. It's done. He's done lined up the other job and everything. He's done, like you said earlier, found this greener grass, or he's misery loves company. He's found somebody there, or something, has gone wrong. And that's not what we want, but it's too late to talk him out of it then. We have to know ahead of time, which is communication, part of it that we try to do with all our owner operators, and I think plays a big role, that they can actually sit down and talk to you guys. Mm-hmm. And they have that one-on-one dispatch, and like Scotty said, they have that, responsibility of taking care of them, wants to take care of them. Yeah. And they have to believe, our owner operators got to believe that that's true with our dispatchers, that they do want to take care of you. I know maybe not it don't come out like that every day. There's some times where we're all human beings, and it just ain't happening today.
Yeah. Well, and that just reiterates, more of getting in here and visiting. Sometimes you can say something on the phone, and what you mean for it to say and the way it comes out are two totally different things. Yeah. And sometimes we just get a little down on ourselves and start feeling sorry for ourselves for whatever reason, and it's that old human nature sets in. And if I had we could do a whole nother show on stuff we said that we wish we wouldn't have said,
right?
So it's something that it's just going to happen.
So what do you guys do? I think a big reason that we have a low turnover rate is the consistency in money.
Yeah.
How do you guys make that happen?
Well, you can't just wish it to happen, and if you're sitting, here's one thing I think that might be the difference with us and some other folks. We're not just coming in here and doing our work and then hoping that the driver makes money or hoping we make money. Somebody else is counting that, and boy, I sure hope we made money today. We keep up with that every day. A guy can tell you at the end of the day, you got a dispatcher and he's got 40 to 60 trucks. He can tell you how much money you build every day. Mm-hmm. He can tell you how many miles every driver on his board got that day. So I think that's, the first thing is knowing what a guy's doing.
And why do they do that? Keep up with the driver's miles? Because at the end of the week?
Yeah, end of the week, you might have some decisions to make. You might have a guy that has worked, some job for you or hauled some loads, that little short loads that have made us some good money, and he hadn't made what he needs to make. So we might need to take care of the guy.
I think a lot of owner-operators think that dispatch don't know maybe and don't care that it's Wednesday, it's Thursday, and I've only got 1,100 miles.
Yeah.
I'm having a bad week. So the driver, I think he thinks that about us a lot of times, is he don't know. He don't even know I'm having a bad week.
Right.
Which is not the case.
Right. No, he knows. And typically he's not the only one that knows, because those guys, if he gets about Wednesday or so and the guy's had a short week, he's barking. He's telling some other guys, we got to get a plan together. I know this load, he's right next to this load and he can do it, but he's already had a short day today, and we got to come up with a plan for him, and we do that. And I think that contributes a lot to our low turnover.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think it's important too. I remember whenever I used to meet my new hires and have our little sit down chat before they actually hit the road, I would just let them know that my main two priorities when I come to the office every single day is, number one, making sure that you make money, and number two, making sure the customers are serviced. Because if you can do those two things, it just seems like everything else kind of falls into place.
Yeah.
So we are keeping an eye on it. And just like I said earlier, if something's wrong with your paycheck, then, don't hold back. Well, then, just know that people are trying to keep an eye on your miles as well. So, obviously let your dispatcher know about it. And then typically the dispatcher will make it public in the office. Hey, we need to get this guy a plan, and we'll all put our heads together and make sure that you have a good week.
I think another reason, we have a low turnover rate is we have 3 different divisions. So a guy can swap divisions, actually change jobs, but never leave the company.
Yeah.
When you got those options,
you bet.
That because I'm sure they get tired of pulling the same thing all the time. Some may not, but they want to try something different, and we have that option here with the hopper, end up, and pneumatic.
You bet. Yeah, and all 3 of those have different, things about them, and sometimes the hoppers will have a whole bunch of long loaded mile hauls, and sometimes the end dumps do, and then that goes back and forth. And I'll tell you a story. One time I had this guy named Jim Brown, and he'd been pulling a hopper for a while, and he was wanting some longer loads. you know, and he wasn't really happy, you know, with the length of the loads he had. And so, you know, he communicated that, and we had a meeting with him, and they said, well, you know, why don't you try this end dump? You know, and he said, okay, yeah, I'll do that end dump. So, you know, here I come, you know, this is your new dispatcher. This is Jim Brown. And I said, all right, Jim.
You're getting him.
Yeah. So I'm, you know, I'm his new, you know, his new dispatcher.
Gotcha.
And so, you know, and I hear, you know, I need him, you know, I really want some long miles and stretch my legs. And I said, all right, Jim, well, I'm going to send you, you know, give you this dispatch here. I'm going to send you to Morrilton, Arkansas, and get a load of nitrate and go 50 miles down the road to Subiaco.
Boy,
and then,
he loved that, didn't he?
And then when you get that done, come back and get another one, you know. But, you know, so there's some training there, you know, the
Right.
dispatch and driver have to kind of, you know, get on the same page, you know, but Jim Brown's still here. And
Yep,
he's
still
doing us a great job. And you may not even remember that, but
You know,
but I sure do.
You know, we've had one reason we've had guys want to swap dispatchers sometimes,
Mhm.
and we're a little hesitant to do that.
Yeah.
The reason I'm hesitant to do that is you get to know a guy good, and it's responsibility on both ends. You want them both to try real hard. You want to make sure they've tried real hard to make it work.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you've had that communication talk. You know, you brought them in, you met with them, and if you've met with them a time or two and it still is not jiving, okay,
Yeah.
we swap you over to somebody else. But if Oakley swaps you to another dispatcher, maybe a second one or even a third one, but typically a second one, and that guy's still having the same problem, we're still having the same problem, sometimes you got to look in the mirror and maybe you're
Where's
the
real
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we've had that happen before.
Yeah.
And so we try, but we want to make sure we've exhausted all options
You
on
bet.
that first one when you swap. And of course, and then they might get Jason Webb and you get a 50-mile haul.
Yeah, I want Jim Brown to know that anytime Subiaco calls in and orders a load of nitrate and it happens to come out of Morrilton, whenever we try to cover that load, Jason stands up and says, "We got a retention load to cover." That's the retention load.
Put Brown on it,
Yeah.
man. Put him on it. All good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Any other stuff you want to cover? Y'all had anything on your notes you wanted to cover?
Well,
I think it's pretty good.
One thing, you know, and there's all kinds of reasons why guys change jobs, but one thing, and we talk about this a lot, you know, in dispatch, you know, kind of looking past 1 week or 1 month, you know, when you get a guy that needs some miles, you know, or we've got to cover a load to take care of a customer, you know, it's 1 week. You know, you've got, you know, a whole year, you know, spend some money and take care of this customer or deadhead this guy to make him a good check for that week. You know, it's 1 week, you know, and you're going to be better off long term by taking care of this deal right now. You know, and I think the same thing's true with the driver, with owner operator. You know, we try all this different stuff to, you know, take care of guys, but there's going to be some bad weeks.
Yeah.
You know, it's just going to happen.
Can't help it.
But I would, you know, tell everybody, you know, look past that week. You know, yeah, you've had a bad week, you know, but are you really going to change, you know, throw away all the time you've put in to a place over a bad week or a bad 2 weeks? You know, before you do that, please give me a call.
Yeah, make the effort.
You know, because a lot of times if we know about a problem, we're pretty good at fixing it. You know, we like to.
Most of it is fixable.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
Lot-
just
a
being
lot of it.
aware of it.
Yeah. No one's half the battle.
The only thing we can't fix is the job.
Yeah, it is what it is.
We're going to haul the loads we haul. We're going to go with these customers we go to. We're going to, you know, do the dump freight, hopper freight, pneumatic. It's going to happen, and that ain't going to change. So if you don't like that, yeah, that's a problem we can't fix.
I don't know what we can do there.
I don't either. Yeah, that's just part of it. But everything else is pretty, you know, is fixable, communication and stuff. I mean, whatever it may be, home time, miles, money, truck, safety, trailer equipment, keeping it up. I mean, all that stuff. It's pretty easy to fix. But like you said, Jason, got to know it.
Yeah.
Knowing is half the battle. So
You bet.
all good stuff, man. Anything else, Scotty? Do you have anything you want to add? We're good.
Not really. I was staring down at my notes here. I'm not even really sure how this ties in, but
Let's have it.
Just throw it out there.
we're dispatchers and truckers. We're not podcasters.
Right.
But just making full circle, coming back to, the really whole reason we started or we're even doing this podcast was to discuss why our retention is lower than the industry. And I just started scribbling here on my paper because we were talking about earlier how important it is for our drivers in the recruiting process. And, the way we're set up in there, a dispatcher kind of has his own little business, and each dispatcher wants to kind of grow his own little business. And thus it makes our company grow as a whole. Well, I remember when I was dispatching, I guess it's been 6 years ago, we hired a guy by the name of Mike McGowan. He was retired from UPS. He was in the military. I believe he served in Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken, but not even really sure why he wanted to keep working, to be honest, after getting to know him. I think he has like 400 head of cattle and goodness knows what else. But just through hiring Mike, he brought his son over. Then his son brought over Ricky Webster, Jeff Myers, Matt Bilal, and they brought on, it just became a family tree, David Brooks, Steve Donaldson. And the same thing happened. The same thing happened with a group of guys down in southern Mississippi and Louisiana. We hired Blake Porter, Kevin Smith, Gustus Matlock. They were all car haulers. We just, I think we just got another one named Troy David. So that just goes back to show you. We hired Mike. He liked the job, and he probably got to thinking, hey, this is a hard job, but it's rewarding. Here's some other guys that can do it, and just spread like wildfire. So that's just a small example. I know there's other family tree of drivers out there, if that's what you want to call it. But, I think that right there is a huge reason why our retention is so good, because those guys probably hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know they talk on the phone every day. So that's really all I had to say.
Yeah, I think you're right. That goes back to them being our best recruiters, and they're all going to ask them. So, yeah, good stuff, man. I appreciate you guys hanging with me today. We thank you all you guys for listening, the owner-operators and families and employees. That's what this podcast is for, to communicate with them. I hope you enjoyed what we had to say today. If you got stuff you want to hear about, let us know, man. Email it, tell your dispatcher, tell your load coordinator, email it to me. We'll be glad to try to get some stuff out here for you to listen to every week and learn a little bit more about Oakley trucking and what goes on inside these walls. We appreciate y'all listening. Talk to you next week. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate or review the show in the podcast platform of your choice and share it with a friend. We love hearing from our audience, so if you've got a question, comment, or just want to say hello, head over to our website, theoakleypodcast.com, and click the Leave a Comment button. We'll get you a response soon and may even share some of the best ones here on the show. We'll be back with a fresh episode very soon. Thanks for listening.